So we're here talking about evangelism. And this class is Evangelism 121, where my name is Joe Schwab, and what I do is I teach people how to witness to people one-on-one. Our objective is always the same. Our objective is to be able to get people to stop, to get them to talk, and to turn the conversation around to the things of God. And we're going to talk about that actually right now. So the method that we use is the RCCR method: relate, create, convict, reveal. RCCR. This is what Jesus did. And John chapter 4, verses 3 through 26. That's really the context of the method that Jesus would use. This is a Bible study, really, on the use of the way of the Master. And what we teach is we teach people how to use the way of the Master, and we use it as a tool. Again, there's a lot of different tools. The one verse method is a tool. There's tools that you can use when you're talking with people. But one thing that we have to keep in mind, the Holy Spirit has to be the one to guide the conversation, to create the opportunity. The Holy Spirit's going to be the one who's going to align that opportunity and set things up. Okay. So relate, create, convict, reveal. We're going to talk about relate. So if I were looking in the Bible and I would read, in John chapter 4, you've got the Samaritan woman, and Jesus comes up to the woman at the well. And the first thing that he's going to say when he's there with her, hey, I'm thirsty. She's there, she's got a bucket, and so he's going to relate with that person. So the first thing, which is critical for anyone who wants to be an effective witness, is you must become an observer. So usually the first homework assignment that I give people is, from today, what I want you to do is I want you to watch people. Now, these days we've got all kinds of things. I'm not asking you to get on Facebook and to creep on people, but what I'm asking you to do is, wherever you are, if that's in your home, if that's at the workplace, if that's in school, wherever you might happen to be, I want you to spend this week, and I want you to observe people. You want to look at, what are they wearing? How are they walking? How do they carry themselves? Everybody has there's clues, and there's going to be something there that you're going to relate with. Now, I was at an outreach when we did Hope Over Heroin, the last event that we did, and it was so cold that I'm sitting there and I'm just shaking and shivering. I can't stop. And I know, God, I'm here to be a witness. I'm here also, I was helping in media, so I was on camera. I'd come off a camera, and so I was to do altar work. And as I'm walking around, I'm shivering so hard, I'm like, God, Holy Spirit, give me somebody to witness to. Because I know when the opportunity comes for me to witness, that uncontrollable shaking will immediately go away. I know it will, because I've experienced that in Athens. So needless to say, it's going to be cold. It'll be very cold for those who go on the outreach. Okay, so we're walking around, and I'm trying a little this here and trying a little that there. Nothing. And I was okay. And I came around the crowd, and there was a man standing there, and he had his son. All right, well, that was my opportunity, because he was there with his son, and I'm there with my son. My son's over operating a camera, helping out in the event, and he's there watching the event. So that was my point to relate with him about. And so I stopped, I talked to him about, hey, bringing the whole family here, because he's there with his son, and he said, yeah, he's there, and he brought his friend, and they're both in some kind of rehab. And I told him, I'm here as well, I'm here with my son, and he's right over there working on the boom camera. From that point, I had the opportunity. Because once you can make that connection with somebody, whatever that is, in this case, it was a man, a father, standing there with his son. And I was able to connect with the father. Sometimes you'll recognize things, and I always tell people, if you have a hobby, man, go all at it. Just go all at it. Because I started running, and I would start to witness to runners. Why? Because I would recognize things. It was the hat they were wearing. It was the type of shoes that they had. I would recognize them because I was a runner. I work in engineering, so what do I get? I get the engineering and science majors. Now, I don't just pick them out. God draws those type of people to me, usually. I was raised Catholic. So generally speaking, generally speaking, I get Catholics who are science majors, who, and it just goes on and on and on and on. As I've gotten older, I find I'll get parents with kids in college, because I've got kids in college. I'll get kids in college who are just like my kids. But sometimes they're a little worse off. Like this big, tall, drunk kid that I was talking with at Mardi Gras, and it was everything I could do to take this kid who was shoulders were about this tall, and he played football, leaning him up against the wall as he's tumbling on me, and leaning him up against the wall. The older that you get, you're not less effective because you're older. God just changes that point of reference that you're going to speak to that person. When I was younger and I was doing this, then yeah, we were just kind of like, whatever, we were not the same age, but you felt like you can relate almost. As I've gotten older, they're just like my kids. And all of a sudden what comes on me is a father thing, and I take the kid and I prop him up, and I start talking to him as if I'm talking to my son who's made a stupid mistake, drinking way too much, and the only reason that you're doing that is because you're dealing with stuff. The older that we get, the more tools God has given us to be able to reach people. Like I was saying earlier, one thing that I'll do, relate. Again, when you relate, you want to be that observer, and you must observe. Because in observing, you're going to catch that thing that you can find that's common, something that you can talk about. Because once I can take that awkward situation, and I can take that and turn that into something, because now I can relate with you at some level. Now all of a sudden, I can talk with you. Once I relate with that person, then the next critical step is to create. That's the opportunity to turn things around to the things of God. Now when we do outreaches, there's a lot of things that we'll do, that we'll use, between using our signs, using our tracts. We'll have very specific tracts. And a lot of these things, all of a sudden you find yourself, I'm going to get directly right into whatever it is that I'm doing. But again, I want to be led by the Holy Spirit. Because what I don't want to do is I don't want to come to you, I don't want to say my 4 little things, get my specific responses that I know I'm going to get from you, and then close in a prayer so that I can go to my Bible and say, got another one. That's not our MO. Our objective is to go and to tell. Our objective is to reach. Salvation comes from the Lord. Our part is to present the message. That's our part. His part is to draw them, because that's a process of the Holy Spirit. It's to bring conviction, also the process of the Holy Spirit. Our part is to see, God, how are you moving on this person? What do they need from you? And I then give you whatever that is. And I let go. My part is not to say I've got so many souls saved, because last time I checked, I couldn't save myself. I needed to be saved, right? I was the one who surrendered my life to Christ. I was the one who threw it all down and said, God, come into my life and take this, because I've just screwed it all up. I can't save anyone, but He can. Amen. And what He chooses to do through you is amazing stuff. But it takes our part to follow Him into the mission field. It takes His part to draw people, because the Holy Spirit will do that. It's more than just signs and tracts and things. I have to be led by the Holy Spirit, because when I'm led by the Spirit, then He'll put me in the right place at the right time.